Hey guys, what's up? Taking a little break from Helldiver stuff to talk about some Final Fantasy 14 stuff for this video. But don't worry, we're not done with that stuff yet. Okay, we're just taking a little break. So this week I saw an interview pop up on my feed with Yoshi-P, the director producer of Final Fantasy 14, talking about what he thinks about the stress levels of active players of Final Fantasy 14. And it got me thinking, it kind of reminded me of a complaint about the game that I had jostling around in my head from back when I thought that FF14 Complaints was going to be a series on this channel. Speaking of which, still not sure if this is going to be a series. Anyways, before we get to the complaining, let's go over a section of the interview that is relevant to what we're talking about. All right, so this is like a little over halfway through the interview. They're talking about the most recent FF14 Fan Fest held at the Tokyo Dome, which is a huge high point for the devs and for Yoshi-P in particular, right? I mean, it's got to be truly like from where the game came, you know, you can't forget, right, how much of a flop Final Fantasy 14 1.0 was and how low everyone working on it must have felt. So to come from there and to be now at the Tokyo Dome, I mean, it's got to feel awesome, right? But it's interesting that Yoshi-P here, Yoshida, starts talking about something that a realization that he's had during this time, right? We'll just read from it. I've once again realized that we must continue to provide players with surprises that go beyond their imaginations. In that sense, I actually have some regrets. As we continue to operate FF14, we have tried to make it more comfortable and stress-free for players to enjoy. But when I think back on the past 10 years, I think we may have gone a bit too far in that regard. What do you mean? Games are always stressful, he says, but dealing with them is extremely difficult. For example, if you're playing a side-scrolling action game and there aren't even any holes where you'll fall or where you'll, I don't trust the Google translation, but basically he's saying where you'll fall if you miss, then of course there won't be any stress. But at the same time, it loses a lot of its fun. Speaking of FF14, I would like to return to this part a little bit in the future. If we do that, I think we will be able to provide everyone with a challenge and a better sense than ever before. This is also a challenge for the next 10 years, and I'm currently designing various games, and it's quite fun. Shimoda, the person who he's also being interviewed with, chimes in and agrees, says, that's right, it's easy to explain things to players when you're mitigating something, but when it comes to creating a challenging balance, you really need to explain things. Finding the right balance between stress and return is very important for game design. If you just keep easing it over and over again, the game becomes tasteless. It's also important to build relationships with players, including explaining to them why this is necessary to make the game better so that they understand. Back to Yoshida. If the game changes without anyone saying anything, the players will be disappointed. Moreover, I'm not talking about increasing the difficulty. Therefore, we need to provide a thorough explanation and communicate with them by saying, please try it out. After that, please give us your feedback. There we have it from the man himself. The game, it's a little too stress-free, but that doesn't mean that he just wants to increase the difficulty. That is a super positive sign, and it leads us to what my current big complaint is about Final Fantasy XIV. There's almost no stress, okay? And let me talk to you about what I mean. There is stress in the game if you want to take on really challenging content, if you want to take on Savage Raiding, if you want to take on Ultimates. There are ways for you to be stressed in this game, but aside from that, the rest is kind of a cakewalk. And I think that's an issue. This is something I discovered recently. Actually, I did a video about it. World of Warcraft's Season of Discovery. And what was really fun about Season of Discovery, even though I didn't really end up sticking with it, it just wasn't really my thing. But it was fun to dip my toes back in. And I think one thing that I really enjoyed was that questing, even at lower levels, felt challenging, not overly difficult, and not overly punishing whenever things went to shit, whether it was because of a mistake I made or just bad luck. But having that feeling that there is the possibility of failure really added a lot to that experience. And I think that's something that 14 is really missing, well, especially right now in the current state, as a billion people have pointed out. But I mean, I've even gone back and I've been doing Bozja recently over at twitch.tv/GrimWhiteTV. You can go watch me do stuff like that there if you want. But I think even Bozja isn't really all that challenging, and trying to find some new mode of combat is one way they can go. They've tried like the Variant and Criterion dungeons this patch, which I feel kind of lukewarm about. Really though, what I would like to see is a little bit more innovation when it comes to dungeons. Some of the older dungeons are a little bit more challenging or have like really silly, or let's just be honest, stupid mechanics that make them dumb, and that's not fun. But the idea that a dungeon is just wall to wall to wall, boss times 3, that gets really old really quickly. And it shows that when they're designing these dungeons, the idea they have in their mind is very systematic, very procedural, and it's getting old, right? I think taking a new approach to dungeons, I think needs to happen. I'm not sure if everyone's going to like it because, MMO players, they kind of get set in their ways, but I think dungeons and raids really need to just get pushed a little bit more. I, as opposed to a lot of other people, really liked A Realm Reborn, like the first 50 levels, the base game of Final Fantasy XIV. I really liked it because I was in the mindset to play an MMO. And then I liked every expansion that I played after because I liked the story that they were telling, okay? But the combat definitely got dumbed down along the way, with some exceptions. But I think Endwalker is where it really shows, especially in the Alliance raids. If you can go back and you can look at the Nier raids from Shadowbringers, you can look at the Evilis raids, whatever you call them, from Stormblood. I think those were tuned very well, and tuning other dungeons, other raids, other content, even just story content around where that difficulty level is at, I think would add a lot to the game, right? Because right now we've seen them, especially in Endwalker, to sort of engage players a little bit more during the questing stage. They've added in different types of quests where, one is you have to follow someone without being seen. So stealth mechanics, which the game is just really not built for. And also just putting an emphasis on solo trials where you play as other characters, which is a little bit more fun, I think, than the stealth trials, but still not quite what I'm looking for. What I'd like to see is them push players a little bit more, even in like the regular casual content, or at the very least come out with like some real type of mid-core content, please. But listen, I'm not a game developer. I'm not going to pretend like I have a great answer to this right now, but I did want to talk about the interview. I did want to point this out. And I guess on a positive note, we can end this by pointing out that, hey, he's thinking about this now at a high point in Final Fantasy XIV's career. What more can he ask for? Well, probably a lot. Okay, well, fuck it. God damn it. I can't end videos. Okay, peace. I love you guys. See you later.